Hello, my dear audiences. Welcome to the show. Jack Chow is hosting with the East West under G&E TV. Election time, and it's the summertime. In the heat, the heat of everything, the heat of, the heat, or even the political heat. Anyway, we're talking about trying to take the moment to exercise our right of democracy to choose the right one for the right job, right? With me today, my good friend, a great friend, matter of fact, Mr. Craig Young, the Honorable Craig Young. He is chairing the California Toll Road Foundation, and he's the chairman of that position for many years. That's a big one, isn't it?
It's the largest in California.
Yeah, the largest in California. So he is also a former mayor and council member of the city of Yorba Linda. I would say welcome, sir, to the show.
Good to see you again, Jack. It's been too long.
It's been too long, yeah, it's been too long, yeah. I started missing you already.
Well, good. I'm glad you missed me, and I'm glad you called and connected.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, we're talking about the election. I know you have, almost a smooth sailing, okay, towards your re-election. I'm not worried about that.
I'm glad you're not worried. I don't worry, but you always plan and you always have to work hard.
I'm not worried. Yeah. And all I wanted to know is that I want to make my audiences feel the same way about you getting a plain sailing, very smooth, smooth into the re-election, because the city of Yorba Linda needs somebody like you.
Well, thank you.
Who might know the city better than anybody else.
It's been a good 4 years.
Yeah. Anyway, as I say many times already, that election, what is election? Election is a moment that for you to choose, exercise your right of democracy, to choose somebody that you believe right for the job, right? So for that, we always want to find out how much does this guy or this lady or whoever, he or she, know his or her city. Am I right?
That's a great way to approach it.
Yeah, put it in a very short term. How much do you know? Right? So how much do you know your city, please, sir?
Oh, by golly, after 4 years of serving on council, you end up learning everything. I should have brought you...
Oh, by the way, prior to that, you were a priest, right?
Pastor, yes.
Yeah, pastor, yeah, all right, good.
Pastor and, of course, an attorney. Still practice law.
Oh, you're everything.
Very, very busy. Yeah.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I should have brought you a picture. The council meeting we had, at our last council meeting, we had a notebook of reading that was this thick, 4 inches high. And then for the toll roads, we had a toll roads board meeting the same week. And these were both a little larger than normal, about normal, but it was that tall as well. So the amount of reading that you do as a city council member to make sure that you make good decisions on behalf of your neighbors,
right. Yeah, of course,
make sure that you're very, very involved.
Yeah,
very informed.
It's not an easy job. I know that.
It's a lot of work.
But basically, about the city, about its land, its people, its housing,
right,
its money, right? And that you have to really build up with quite a knowledge about how much you know, so that you will make your decision right.
Good for you.
Right? You cast your vote in the right way, right direction.
That's exactly
towards
right.
the knowledge that you know about the city.
For our city, for Yorba Linda, because we're not a very large city, we're just under 70,000 people, but we have a discretionary budget of $31 million per year. And so you're right, you have to be very informed to make sure that you're spending that money.
31 million for
right.
65 to 70,000 people.
Right.
That's not a big deal.
It's a good budget. It's what we need to make sure that we keep the city safe, but it's not so big that we can just throw away money. We have to be very careful and spend the money.
Compared to Pasadena, they have a population about 100,000, 110,000, but they have $1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion for 110,000.
So
That sounds high.
That's quite a difference, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, I may not be correct with the Pasadena number, but let me cast myself to
Sure.
to your own number, right? So for the 65,000 to 70,000 people, how much do you know about their demographic?
Demographics in Yorba Linda, we are about 75% Caucasian, looking like me. We have an Asian community of about 15%.
Oh,
And
15%.
Yeah, and growing. Yorba Linda is a town that our friends from Asia, China, and Japan, and the Philippines, and they love Yorba Linda because our school system is so strong, and because as a city we are very fiscally responsible.
The population, I mean, the ratio of Asian in the population is growing. That I have no doubt
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah.
Not only is growing, but fast. I have lots of friends, especially those kind of dignitaries. They end up buying beautiful houses,
Well,
mansions, I would say.
you have invited me to several programs that
Yeah.
EDI sponsors, and as you introduce me to your friends, you will routinely say, "Craig Young, Mayor of Yorba Linda."
Yeah.
And they say, "Oh, I live in Yorba Linda."
Right? Okay. They all end up living in Yorba Linda.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And to look at the city, and I believe that the biggest name of Yorba Linda might be because nobody has can come near, is that it was the birthplace of Richard Nixon.
Absolutely right.
And still today it has the Library of Nixon, right?
It has the Library of Nixon. It actually has the house that President Nixon grew up in. It is on the library site.
Yeah, yeah.
And that there are only 13 presidential libraries in the entire country. Of course, we've had more than 13 presidents, but only 13 of them have libraries, and so we are very lucky to have one right in our town.
Yeah, and of course, you're talking about all kinds of presidential libraries, but this one, Richard Nixon Library, by the way, to my audience, I have visited many times, not only to the fact it is a presidential library, but to the more stronger fact that former President Richard Nixon had made the great deal to break the ice.
That's exactly
of
right.
the Cold War, and he was the one started the first handshake with Mao Zedong, who is not my favorite anyway. I'm not a fan of his anyway. But still, these two big leaders, and they started shaking hands after World War II.
Right.
After the Cold War, well, I mean, during the coldest winter of Cold War,
Right.
they started handshake, right? So
Well,
let us know something about it, please.
Sure. Well, the U.S. and Russia, of course, had severe tensions going on during that time, and China, being the country with the largest population in the entire world, we've talked about this before, Jack, where we have a three-legged stool. It was important that all three countries balanced each other out. You know, a stool, a chair with only two legs is going to fall over, right? So you need that third leg, and that's
You're
why
talking about tripod.
that tripod. That's right. Yeah, all the cameras are on tripods, right?
Yeah, tripod. Yeah.
And that's why President Nixon thought, from an international perspective, it was so important for him to become friends with China. And so you're right. They reached out
And
to the
rumor
handshake.
has it, it's never been exactly written in history, but the rumor says that it was a time when Russia started, preparing a nuclear kind of attack to China.
I've heard those rumors as well.
To China. And, accidentally, United States learns about it. So, United States purposely lead the information to China so they know that they're warned. So, and then that started kind of like extended a little token that the Mao Zedong accepted, and then started going that way and started with a handshake from Beijing,
Sure.
72, right?
Absolutely. So if a Russia and China ally, if they were to partner together more closely, that would have been difficult for the United States. But as you said, there was tensions also between Russia and China. And so by the United States partnering with China, that was able to keep Russia suppressed. And it's the ally nature that was created that helped all three sides be able to behave themselves better.
That was a good move. That was not only the the diplomacy between United States and China, but also from an international strategic point of view to keep the tripod stable.
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
So if you read Chinese history, I believe that you know more Chinese history than other elected officials who were born and raised here, because your son is in China later on. We'll talk about that, right? In China, one of the famous book is the Three States, the Tripod State, 三国. That exactly talks about how the three states balance each other,
right?
How they fight amongst themselves, and still the balance should be kept. Once the balance is broken, and it is broken, the whole thing is broken.
Right. You're exactly right.
And I believe that legacy that President Nixon has left us is to continue the relationship, the friendship, so that the tripod is there. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. And we fast forward, look at what happened just last year. The president of China, President Xi, and President of the United States, President Obama, reached an agreement where we now have a 10-year visa, travel visa between the countries.
Of course.
And so that's building those friendships.
I have my 10-year to China.
I do too.
My 10-year to China. And it's quite easy.
And I just used mine last week. I arrived back from China Sunday. When did you last use yours?
$20 something to the one stamp that goes on for 10 years.
10 years, right.
I obtained it in 2015, and then, well, you know, I've been traveling back and forth for several times already.
Right.
This is convenient, right? And also this year, President Xi Jinping and Barack Obama met in Beijing, and they named 110 or 3 items, exchange items,
that they were going to focus on.
For cultural exchange,
right,
that both governments recognize. You know what? Among all the items, the Chinese American Film Festival was elected.
I remember seeing that. Congratulations. Right? That is very exciting, isn't it?
And it's one more time.
Yeah.
And this year, the Chinese American Film Festival is celebrating its 12th anniversary.
That is fantastic.
Oh, please be invited.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Right.
I've attended 2 now, is that right? Or 3?
2 or 3, at least 3.
Yeah.
At least more than 2,
So
at least 3.
I look forward to it.
You look forward.
Always fun.
All right, my dear audience. Today we are having a little conversation, a very relaxed way, with my good friend, Mayor of Yorba Linda and Council Member of Yorba Linda, Mr. Craig Young, and Chairman of the California Toll Road Association. And he is right now running for his re-election, which I have no doubt about that he will successfully do it. But I want my audience to feel the same way. That's why we sit here and talk. All right, so let's take a very short moment now. When we come back, we'll continue with the city legacy. We'll continue with the city development and the city future. Please stay with us. Hello, dear folks. Welcome back to the show, Future the East-West Show, with the Mayor of Yorba Linda, Mr. Craig Young, and also he's the chairman of California Toll Road Foundation. And I'd rather introduce it the other way around because he talks about that, his job, well, in such a emotional way, with lots of passion. I could talk about. He takes almost personal about people's life when driving.
Well, safety is important, whether you're on the roads or you have crimes going on in the town. If you recall, for the last 3 years that I've been on the city council, I boil everything down to A, B, and C. A is all things public safety, and that's where we have to start as a council member. We have to make sure that we're safe. B is the bottom line, financials. We've talked about financials. And C is communication. How do you communicate, just like what we're doing here? And so I appreciate you allowing me to talk to our audiences.
Yeah, exactly. And I do agree with that. And I understand that you have a son in China who's teaching in Shanghai or Shaoxing? Shaoxing University.
Right, close to Shanghai, but in Shaoxing. Yes.
What does he teach?
He teaches business classes.
Oh, he teaches business classes.
He has 500 students total, and So he's able to vacation right now. He's traveling at the Three Gorges. If you know where that is, I don't, but you probably.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's on the back of one of the Rimbies, one of the bills. It shows the very famous Three Gorges, most beautiful place in all of the world. Has the largest natural bridge. Anyway, he's vacationing right there now, enjoying the beautiful scenery in China, because he has to come home Thursday.
But Shaoxing is not close by the Three Gorges.
Oh no, he had to take an airplane flight.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So you confuse me by talking about Shaoxing Three Gorges altogether.
He has
Three
traveled.
Gorges the way past the northwest.
Yeah, he has traveled all over China, enjoying it much.
I see.
The reason he's doing it now, though, is he has to come back Thursday and grade 500 final exams.
Oh wow!
So he says, I need a break. I need to go get away and let my brain rest before I come grade all of the final exams.
You know what? It sounds like somebody just sent a son over to China to teach, but I will drag it over here to see the legacy that Richard Nixon has founded, right? So to think internationally, because the world is getting smaller and smaller, and the boundary between countries and whatever is no longer there or no longer as strong, right?
Yeah. Now, Shaoxing is a very historic place.
I know they have good wines.
The Shaoxing wine, that's
yes,
exactly
they have good
right.
Wines, yes.
And Prime Minister Zhou Enlai, that is where he is from. That is his hometown.
He was born there?
Yeah, but you talk about me sending Jacob. I didn't send him at all. If you remember, he studied in Shanghai back a few years ago when he was in college.
I see.
And he knew that if he didn't go back and learn Mandarin, so he's trying to learn to speak fluent
by the way,
Chinese.
does he speak Mandarin now?
He does.
He does.
He says that he's not quite proficient, so he's a notch down below that.
Enough to teach.
He loves to teach, and
But enough to teach.
He teaches in English.
Oh, in English.
Yeah,
oh.
so he teaches the classes in English, and then he helps tutor some of the students on the side to learn English better.
I see.
But while he's helping them and they're learning English, he's taking classes learning Chinese. He's learning Mandarin. And so,
What a way, what a way. We call for exchange. What is exchange? This is the way to exchange.
Well, China is one of our top 3 trading partners, right? And when Jacob was there, when he was in college, he knew that if he didn't learn how to speak Mandarin, he would not have the same job opportunities in the future, because China has become such a global country.
You're right,
They are just all over. And so the smart students will learn how to speak Mandarin.
The problem is that, sir, that if we put it to another elevation, we see differently. Because here in the States, somebody calls for a danger or risk with the rise of China, right? And then at the lower level, among us, average people, we do not see that kind of risk or danger, whatever. What we want to do is that to prove that, the more people, the more join us at the very bottom to prove there is no such thing existed, the better the situation, right? So at the city, on the council level, do you think that you are prepared to promote that call? Please.
Absolutely, and I think it's critical that we do as a council member. You and I have talked about this before. I've made several trips. In fact, I get to go back to China again in August, the first week of August, and I'm taking a delegation of mayors with me. And the reason is I want our mayors in all of our cities in California, Southern California, Orange County, Los Angeles, Nevada.
It's already planned?
It's already planned, yeah. And I've done this trip many times in the past.
I see.
For the very reason that you said, Jack. I want council members to be able to know more than what you hear about in the media at the very top level of the tensions.
I see.
I want them to see firsthand what's happening in China.
I see.
Our city of Yorba Linda is 15% Asian, and that percentage continues to grow because the Chinese and other Asian communities love our values. They love our schools. They love what we're teaching. They love the safety, the fact that we are a very safe community, and yet there could be this fear if we don't go see for ourselves. And so that's why I get to lead the mayors.
And it sounds like quite a promotion. When you bring that many mayors, how many of them?
Well, last year we had 11. This year I think we are at 9.
Yeah. to go to China. Which cities?
We're going to be all over. We're going to start in Beijing, and we're going to end in Guangzhou, and we'll have several stops along the way.
I see. Maybe I want to introduce you some cities that I know some contacts, good contacts.
Very good.
Yeah. And of course, like I said in the very beginning, that we want to join the promotion from the very bottom line, saying that there is no such a danger, right? Or being risk to the United States or dangerous to the United States. Nobody wants to attack anybody.
You know, let me share a story, if I may, real quick. I was back in Washington, D.C. just a couple of weeks ago and meeting with an official from the State Department. And there was a group of us from Orange County who all went. And this person actually had spent time in China. That was one of his stations. That was one of his responsibilities. And I said, well, how do you, as a State Department official, deal with the fact that China is one of our largest trading partners financially, and yet there's the concerns of what's happening at the other level?
And debtor.
He had a great answer. I loved his answer. He said, Craig, they are a trading partner, and we need them to continue to be a trading partner. The closer we are as countries trading financially, the less we have to worry about the problems that he called the fringes. He said everything that's happening in the China Sea that they're concerned about at the State Department of the U.S., which I know nothing about as a mayor, but he says, I consider that to be a fringe issue. Is it important? Yes, it's important. Cybersecurity, it's a fringe.
It can always be kind of a suited up.
Absolutely. But he said as long as we remain strong financial partners, then the fringe issues we will just continue to focus on, but they'll take care of themselves. Because we need each other, right? China needs us to buy from them and needs us to sell to them, and vice versa.
And we need to borrow from them.
Yeah, sure.
We would probably be continuing borrowing, and that's a trend, right?
And the State Department officials said that's a good thing. Because as both sides need each other, you're able to go to the negotiation table about these other important fringe issues and make sure that they're taken care of. So I love that story.
There's really an elevation to see the problem. The very practical elevation to see the problem. Exactly that, in coincidence, that falls in the same ballpark when I say when there are more and more people joining the chorus of calling for more exchanges, and the danger reduces, even the call for danger reduces, right? So there is no such danger. If you see one, and then we call for it. So when the voice is saying, everybody joins the chorus, so the call is there.
Sure. Right. Now, those other issues are important, and we need to continue to work together on those issues, but you're right. If the chorus is loud enough of everything else in the middle, that'll carry the day.
Very good, very good. Yeah. My dear audience, today with my good friend, Mayor Yang, and council member of Yorba Linda, I'm sharing his beautiful mind about the international relationship to putting in a higher elevation. As a matter of fact, if you take that as too much for a word, though, we're talking about relationship among people.
People to people diplomacy.
People to people, right?
Exactly
people
right.
to people. And by that, not only he had his son teaching in China, but he himself constantly taking group of people, of mayors, to China for a visit, and we back here bringing his information to the audiences like an ambassador, right? So, yeah, I like that kind of job.
I do too.
You may like slogans, but I like practitioners, right?
Practical areas to improve.
Very good, very good. So he's running his re-election, which I have no doubt about. I only want my audience to feel the same way that I do. So my dear audience, thank you for watching. We're running out over time. And to Mayor, thank you very much for joining me.
Appreciate it.
Hello, my dear audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow's hosting with East and West. Yes, we are at this moment talking about a beautiful city of Yorba Linda. And with me today is my good friend, Greg Young, former mayor and council member of Yorba Linda. He's also the chair of the California Toll Road Foundation, and he has quite some efforts in that whole area. And speaking of infrastructure, road conditions, he is the one that not only has the best knowledge, but has the best proof of what can be done, what can be maintained, and their PMI is one of the biggest issue that we touched a little bit. Now, to save time, I got to be doing it in a very compact way. I understand that you just came back from China.
Yes.
For a short trip, right?
Yeah. A little less than a week.
Yeah. A little less than a week. Right. Tell me something about your visit, please.
Oh, sure. I had the privilege of being the keynote speaker from the United States at a conference, a first annual conference of driving safety that was held in Beijing.
Driving safety, yes. Mm-hmm.
So there were other speakers from the UK, from Switzerland, from Japan, from Korea, and we all were able to deliver speeches, and my speech specifically was to talk about driver safety and warn people about being a distracted driver. You know, we were on our cell phones, we were listening to the radio, we might be eating. All of those things that take our attention away from the road create injuries, create crashes, create fatalities, unfortunately, that we need to be very careful about.
There's really an issue that's getting daily increased attention. We just learned that China ambassador to France ended up in a traffic accident.
Right.
And one of the Hollywood star, very famous, just ended the same way. We lost one more star.
Right.
So,
right.
In addition to cancer or whatever disease, you could name it, the traffic accident is really a big thing.
It's actually one of the top killers in the United States.
One of the top.
And the statistic that I learned of people who are visiting the United States, it is the #1 killer. You are more likely to die of a traffic crash than you are of cancer or something else if you're a visitor.
You're very right.
Sure.
Especially when you look at China about the traffic rules versus the traffic conditions.
Right.
Driving was almost like sailing. There is no lane, no limit, no regulation, whatever. Everybody sails like a different way, like right. So it's totally a free country now. So that is very dangerous. Something has to be done about it. I can see the significance about having that kind of conference. Right?
And good for the conference folks who put this conference on, because they wanted to learn what are the best practices that are happening in the United States and the UK and all around the world. Switzerland, they know that there are problems in China. They want to make sure that they are better tomorrow than they were today.
Of course, lots of work needs to be done. There was one time in Xi'an, it was winter time. I was riding a taxi. My hotel was on the left-hand side, and it's a one-way road.
Right.
And for the driver to go exactly to the front of my hotel, though, he has to go past it and go redo it. Well, anyway, there's no way. I asked him to drop me off, and he gladly did.
Yes.
So it was about 3-lane road,
right.
one way. It took me 25 minutes to come across.
Oh boy.
I just couldn't do it.
Right.
I just couldn't do it. The moment I stepped down the curb, I took it back.
Be run over.
Because zoom, zoom, like that. So rules and regulations needs to be learned.
Right.
So I do once again see the significance of the conferences. I understand that you made a wonderful speech.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to be able to do so. We also were able to tour a couple different driving schools while we were there. And the main sponsor,
driving schools
that teach the rules, that help people stay safe. And it was so impressive, Jack. I don't know if you've toured the facility. The one in Beijing that I toured was the Eastern Pioneer Driving School, the largest driving school in the entire world. They had 4 large areas where drivers could practice driving. One of them, they would have a bus parked, and they would have a cardboard person that they would push out, and people would have to practice stopping. So they're doing a wonderful job.
Unless, like in the States, though, you do not have a practice ground, like a playground for you to do. You always do in the traffic.
In the real traffic, right.
In the real traffic,
yeah,
right.
What a terrible place to practice.
terrible way.
Yeah, no, the Chinese have it right. It's so much better to do it in a controlled environment.
And also, especially for people who come to the States from China and started driving right away.
It's
because
different.
they believe they have their own driver license, and according to rules, within, like, say, a certain period about a visa status.
Right.
As long as the visa status is effective, as long as your home driver license is effective, you can be driving on the California freeway anywhere without having to have any California driver license.
You can get an international driver's license. I have one, and it's important because when I was in China, after I went to the conference and was able to deliver my speech, I was able to go visit my son, and we got onto the motorcycles, and we went for 2 hours as he toured me all around his town. That was scary.
But the thing is that when you started driving, you have all kinds of licenses, though. That's only paper.
Right.
That's only paper.
It doesn't mean you understand the rules.
It's your real life.
Yeah.
I'm protected in a totally new environment.
Right.
You're exposed to 100%.
Well, and as you know, the driving rules in China are different. So as I would follow my son, he would drive the motorcycle, and I would be in the other motorcycle behind him. He would bob and weave in and out of traffic as you do in China.
Okay.
It was terrifying to me.
and vice versa. When I come to China, I never dare drive. I never dare to. And the opportunities, well, whatever, they offer me to drive, I refuse.
Right.
I could rent a car to drive, I refuse, because I just can't drive.
No, better to have a driver drive you.
I don't know. I can't tell which of the second somebody will pop up.
It was all the time. It was not when after 2 hours, when I got back to Jacob's apartment, I was exhausted. That was work.
Okay, all right, good. So how many who are the audiences at the conferences when you made the speech?
There were about 300 people in the audience, predominantly from China, owners and operators of different driving schools all throughout China.
Oh, they are driving school owners, operators.
And so they were trying to learn what is the United States doing to make their drivers more safe so that they can go teach their students better safety. What's happening in the United Kingdom? What's happening in Switzerland?
I see.
They're just trying to figure out what's the best of all of the world, and let's incorporate that into our rules in China to make everybody safe. After I delivered my speech, I started with a video. So there was a short PSA, public service announcement that we have here that I was able to show in China. The main host came up a couple speakers later to deliver his speech, and he addressed the audience and said, Mayor Young made me cry when he showed that video, because he has a daughter about the same age as the daughter in the video who had died because of a crash.
I see.
And he said, that's why this conference is so important. We need to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Exactly.
And it was a powerful conference.
Exactly.
Very, very well done.
And of course, this is a very humane issue because you care about your life. You better care about how you drive.
Right.
Other than that, there's never a moment you can tell something will not happen or will happen. Right?
And what I think was also powerful for people to hear is the statistic that 67%, 2/3 of the people who are injured in an accident are not the driver. The people who are injured are the passenger, or somebody in another car,
or a backseat passenger.
Or a backseat passenger. So people might say, oh, I'm okay, I'm going to assume the risks, right? But it's one thing for you to assume the risks for yourself, but what about everybody else surrounding? So you're right, it's a very important issue.
You could never be able to do that because you're talking about the moving vehicles.
Right.
Everything is moving like a machinery. They move on the ground. Everything moves. So there's no way of telling. Especially, sir, next time when you want to deliver a speech like that kind. We want to pack one more. I wonder if you did this time. Because unlike in the United States, you develop a city, you just kind of design a road conditions with consideration already about how many cars you will have.
Right.
Right. In China, at the time when they started developing, there is no such concept or that much of concept about how many cars we'll have. The road is there, it is there, and this is the building, this is the building, this is how much they roll.
Right.
Right. So, and then all of a sudden, the cars kind of rush in. So you're handling a situation that's never been prepared. Right.
Excuse me. Well, and our populations keep growing. People keep having babies.
Yeah.
I was at a conference last evening, and as the chairman, I was able to do the introduction for the panel of speakers who were speaking, and it was dealing with the fact that in Orange County, we need to increase our capacity on roads because the traffic is too bad. There's too much traffic. We need to free it up with new roads because you're exactly right. We have more drivers, more cars than were planned on when the roads were initially built.
That's where a toll road kick in.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, we have a $180 million bridge that we're building to connect our toll road with another toll road, and that'll be very, very close to Yorba Linda. And then we're trying to find out if it's a good idea to build another toll road extension that takes the same road and connects to the 5 freeway.
That will diverse the traffic.
That will help divert the traffic. That's a $1.5 billion expansion that we're doing. But it's all to improve the lives of our residents. If you're sitting in traffic, you're not working and you're not playing with your kids. And so we need to get people off the roads, out of traffic, enjoying their lives.
My Grace. She's my everything. She's the greatest gift that life could give. She's what makes life so beautiful, so fulfilling. To see my little girl smile is all that I lived for. But all that was taken away from me in less than a blink of an eye. I would give everything I have to see that beautiful smile just once more.
Brady, watch out!
Grace? Grace? Grace! Grace! Daddy's coming! Daddy's coming, baby! Daddy's coming, baby! Hold on! Hold on! Grace! Somebody help her!
Hi, I need an ambulance. There's been a car accident.
Somebody help me! Guys! Wait! Look what you did! you did! Look what you did to my baby! You took her away from me! You took her away from me!
Hello, my dear audience, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the discussion about the beautiful city, Yorba Linda. By the way, I just learned the word Yorba means beautiful in Spanish. I don't know, I never checked about it, but Yorba Linda putting together means beautiful Linda. So you guys, well, you ladies behind the camera, if you happen to be a Linda, well, anyway, you're gonna like Yorba Linda, right?
Very good. I like it.
That's a good discovery.
That's a great discovery. Sure.
Would be is my good friend, former mayor, council member of the city of Yorba Linda, chairman of the California Toll Road Association, and a former
Pastor.
A pastor, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Pastor.
pastor
Former pastor and a lawyer, still a lawyer.
And a lawyer.
Lawyer,
Right,
you're everything.
right.
Oh, now which means you can handle your problem in a biblical way
Right.
and the legal way.
That's right. And hopefully the two are the same.
They are the same, right? Okay, sometimes.
Sometimes, right.
So we're talking about his re-election, which I have no doubt about, and there is no competition that comes even close. But I want my audience to feel the same way. That's why I want to bring this opportunity to my audience to see this gentleman, how much he knows about his own city, how much he knows about the future of the city, and the status quo of the city, which can be bettered, better off, and which can be improved,
Right.
which should have been done in a different way or something like that. So now, the status quo, if you want to give a status quo of a city, Yorba Linda, how do you want to score it from 1 to 10?
Oh, 10 being the highest, I would put Yorba Linda at a 9.5.
9.5. All right.
The only reason I'm running is we still have that extra half that we need to get.
Oh, yeah, extra half,
The
right?
job's
For
not,
the extra half.
Job
You
is
wanna
not done
continue
yet.
doing.
Yeah, but
Okay,
Yorba Linda is a great city. I've lived there for 20 years, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful town. We have our challenges, like everybody else, but one of the early motions that I made 4 years ago.
When was Yorba Linda established?
Yorba Linda was established, in fact, it was the same year that my next brother down was established when he was born, which would be 1967, so it's almost 50 years old.
1967. Oh, yes, right there, almost 50 years old, right?
Now that's when the city was incorporated. Of course, there were already shops
Yeah, of
and
course, of
homes
course, yeah,
before
yeah.
that point. In fact, our Chamber of Commerce celebrated 100 years. I think it was 2 years ago. So as a community, it's been around for a much longer time, but it incorporated.
Sir, if you look around Southern California, though, 50 years is about the average of the cities, right?
Okay.
Because if we go back more than 50, like 100 or 150, you're going back to the Spanish War time, right? So 50 is quite a average, substantial number for cities to be the size of the city or whatever, the body of a city. Now, what I found out, what I have noticed is, strangely enough, that when you drive on the surface of the city, though, you feel the road conditions almost as new as it was built yesterday. And whereas for the same amount of years for the city with the same other city with the same amount of years of history, though, I really hate to mention those names of the cities.
Well, then don't, yeah.
But you feel totally a different way. If not bumpy like this,
Right.
it is something that you know, oh yeah, it's getting old, something like that. Question.
Yes.
How, why, what did you do? What are you doing to make it that happen, make it that way, please?
It's one of my top priorities. As we've already talked about, I am chairman of the board for the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency. Roads are very important
You
to
have
me.
one more hat.
Well, no, that's the Toll Road Association
Okay,
that you
I
call
see,
it. That's
I
just their technical name.
I'm talking about your different hat.
I wear lots of hats, that's right.
You have lots of hats, yes.
But roads are very important to me, making sure that we construct new roads and that we maintain what we have. As a mayor, as a council member, there's a temptation to want to go build new parks, right? Everybody loves new parks. I've had two financial strongholds since I've been on council. The very first one that I did was to pay off all our debt. So the city of Yorba Linda has no debt whatsoever.
I see.
The
Debt-free.
Yeah, the successor agency has some, but not the city proper. And what's good about running a city without debt is we can make sure that our roads are always in good condition. So it is a top priority for us. We divide the city into 7 different areas, and every year we repave a different area of the 7. So we essentially have a new road every 7 years.
Bearing no debt, meaning that all holes are filled.
All holes are filled.
All jobs are done, including the infrastructures.
Including the infrastructure, right?
So including maintenances or pioneers or so on and so forth. Those jobs are done on a year-to-year way, on a year-to-year base, and yet bearing no debts.
And
Am
yet
I right?
you're exactly right. There's a study that all cities do called a PMI, Pavement Maintenance Index. So the purpose of that is to see what condition your roadway is in. We are always aware and hold it as a top priority to make sure that our Pavement Maintenance Index keeps us in the good category. And so that's why when you drive in Yorba Linda, you say, oh, it feels so smooth. You know, is it a new city? No, we're 50 years old, but feels
I
good.
believe that my audience, if you happen to be in Yorba Linda, or if you happen to just pass by that city, or driving on any surface road though, you will find out exactly what I'm saying is right. You feel the same way, because it looks like exactly the way that I felt about the United States 31 years ago when I first landed.
Right.
I rode back to my friends and say, driving here caused you to doze off easy because
So smooth.
it's so smooth.
Sure.
You doze off like
Sure.
that. Nowadays, we no longer have that problem. We can be always awake because it's bumpy like a bumpy car, bumper car.
But not in
like
Yorba
that.
Linda.
Not in Yorba Linda, thanks to the leaders of the city, thanks to the principals. I call it that way, right?
That's a good
to
way.
run your city
Sure.
in a debt-free way, yet get all the job done.
Sure.
It is totally different than other situations where you have a job to do laid upon us. You have an overhead big as heaven, and then you take a bank loan, then you get yourself buried in debt while you're forced to do the work. Right. Am I right?
You're right. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
So,
On our pavement, on our streets that we have a council.
PMI.
Pavement Maintenance Index, right on. There are 5 council members, and my push always with my colleagues, and we get along very well, but my push is always to be careful with how we spend our money. I say, colleagues, we need to make sure that we build up reserves so that our streets are always smooth.
I see.
Because to me that's important. You can go build new parks, but if you don't want to drive to them because your streets are bumpy, no one will use the parks. So pavement is a pretty important part of our financials.
Yeah. And you mentioned about parks, recreation parks or amusement parks,
Right.
whatever. So, I mean, how do you weigh your money with the park situation?
Yorba Linda has a lot of parks compared to some cities, and the way that I weigh our money is
It's in Yorba Linda, right?
it's beautiful.
God be
It's-
parks.
It's supposed to be beautiful, that's right.
Yeah.
And so I want to make sure that we take care of what we have.
Uh-huh.
Besides all of our parks with our ball fields and the places for the kids to play, we also have a trail system that goes all throughout Yorba Linda. Yorba Linda is only 22 square miles. We're 11 miles long by 2 miles wide, roughly. So 22 square
Like a strip,
miles.
yeah.
And yet on 22 square miles, we have 100 miles of trails that you can jog or bike ride or ride horses on. And that's just a great way to enjoy the city.
Yeah.
but they have to be maintained. And that's why
Well,
we,
very beautiful city, and also the trails are painted white.
yes,
I noticed
white
that.
fences,
I
yeah.
noticed that. All right, good. So, my dear audience, today with my good friend Greg Young, former mayor and council member of the city of Yorba Linda, we're talking about his re-election, which I have no doubt about. I only want to make a point that I want to let this and my audiences and have this opportunity to start to find out from this wonderful gentleman what he has in mind about making Yorba Linda even better city, like that kind, right? So,
Very good.
Let's take a very short moment out. As I mentioned, his son, who is teaching in China, and I want to find some other stuff within that area to see what this city council member, I call him, has in mind in regard of U.S.-China relations.
very good.
So stay with us.